Hello and welcome to Balls on a Tray, the inexplicably named gaming podcast. This is Season 3, Episode 19, and we're recording this on the evening of Wednesday the 30th of May, 2018. I'm Tony Chandler, and with me tonight, Simon Allen. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Tony. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. I'm still enjoying time off work. I haven't been back for weeks. I know how long. It feels like forever. It's been nice.
Yeah, I mean, I could say that there's nowhere I'd rather be on a Wednesday than with you and the rest of the
I thought you were going to say than at work.
Yeah, I mean, I am saying Wednesday. No, I'm not saying Friday or Thursday or any of the days that are better than Wednesday, which is
any of the social days. Yeah, I mean, you know,
I happily give up Wednesday.
Frankly, I'm not surprised we didn't end up. I am surprised we didn't end up recording this on a Monday, like the pub quiz night, isn't it? Monday, it's the shit night nobody wants. So, you know, we could do the podcast then.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Monday is the pub quiz night. I don't know why. I don't seem to dislike Mondays as much. I don't know.
Really? Yeah.
Hump day, isn't it? Wednesday's hump day.
Oh, you said hump day.
Yeah, it's what, John? Sorry?
You said hump day.
Oh, you wanted people to get really annoyed about that?
I don't. Why is hump day? Jeez, just grow up.
Well, I say hump day because that's the day when I have sex with loads of people.
Oh, sorry. In which case, we were speaking at cross purposes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And also,
yeah,
those people are camels, so it's a sort of double meaning.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and
Camels
that's probably
are people too.
something I need to come clean about. All the camels that I've been rutting.
Who's been in some camel toe?
Well,
Yeah.
After that appalling interruption, I better introduce our special guest. It's Mark Rooney. Hey, Mark.
Hang on, just need to accept your new privacy policy. There we go. Hello.
Yeah. Actually, we haven't done that yet, actually, to all the people whose email addresses we've collected, or guests as we call them.
Or should it be called the depravity policy?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. It's definitely something wrong. I was going to say something in Simon's camel humping. Oh, that was it. Yeah, John, you were talking about being upset. I hate it when people use childish words like nom 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 and like free sleeps till Xmas and all that kind of stuff.
I
and
see.
like, fuck off, you're 30 odd years old.
Yeah, Xmas is a bad one, though. I mean, even writing it is bad enough because it's just lazy shorthand, but saying it, there's no excuse. But
That's the thing. For a time, there was a good excuse for shortening stuff, like using you for like you, if you know what I mean, the letter U.
Why?
Because like it used to be fiddly with the old phones, didn't it? But now it's actually quicker to type the actual word than to fuck about typing the stupid.
Just laziness. Well, the thing about Christmas is, and I remember this isn't my story; it's one that I'm repeating and basically just taking and owning. But that was Chris Boyles was his mother objects very strongly to Xmas because she's an Irish Catholic. And what she says, they're taking the Christ out of Christmas. So, which is obviously a very major thing if you're of a Christian religious bent.
The whole kind of sort of Christian iconography would be very different if it was actually Xmas.
X.
If you'd been like on an X, it would probably be a little bit more comfortable, frankly, than a cross.
Yeah.
Who was I?
And what's it to do with Christ anyway? What's Santa's Day?
Santa's Day.
So I was playing PlayStation with somebody recently. I can't remember who it was, and they said they referred to X as cross.
That was me.
Yeah, we had that conversation on this podcast.
It was on this very podcast 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, I said cross.
Simon doesn't listen to the podcast.
No, but it wasn't.
Well,
it was
I made a note in my head that person was really handsome. So that's what I was going to say.
No, it was the O thing, wasn't it? John referred to it as zero or O instead of circle.
Circle.
But you're kind of right. I wouldn't really call X cross, but then circle by that logic is O, isn't it? I suppose if you're doing X and O, but then triangle and square don't fit that logic. So
I've not happened upon someone who says pyramid.
Yeah, exactly. You really should say like box, pyramid, cross, circle, something
What
like
about
that.
on the Xbox then? Is it the A key? A button?
That's Abba Uxia.
I still hate the fact that they came along and put the same button layout and then changed the names. That really annoyed me. Go from Xbox to PlayStation. It's like learning a new language. Yeah, like there's an X button on on both, but they're not in the same place.
It's different on the Nintendo as well.
I can tell you the
Yeah.
Switch is completely confusing. If you try and
Oh yeah, Nintendo. have
in
always been
Zelda
batshit,
after
yeah.
100 hours or whatever, it says press Y to jump or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know which one Y is. I just know which button jump is. It's very confusing, the Switch, because I think it's different. It has A and B, but they're an X and Y, but they're different to the Xbox one. It's very confusing. Don't like it. Don't care for it. Don't care for it at all.
You know,
But the reason I
mentioned
mention it is because because we say cross for X on the PlayStation sometimes. So cross and X are obviously interchangeable, but Christmas goes against that, because then you're saying Chris is the same as X. But then perhaps that's correct, because cross should be the kind of holy cross, right? Not an X. So Chris should be X.
Well, it's
So
crisscross.
it doesn't make any sense.
crisscross.
Chris cross.
Jump.
Do you know what? And this is probably a bad thing to say, seeing as I've got Mark here as our guest. But I had a bit of trouble finding a guest for this week. I was going to ask. Hi. I was going to ask
That's a
Chris.
bye. I'm away then.
That never happens on Graham Norton or Jonathan Ross. Weird. They never say that.
Yeah, they come on. Yeah, like, who's this guy? Never heard of him. Yeah. No, but I did want to get Mark on at some point. But this week I was going to ask Chris to come on, and then I realised he is buggering about in Tennessee, which is annoying and very thoughtless, really.
Was that a literal description of what his activities are?
Yeah,
Is
pretty
he
much.
actually
He's out
buggering about in Tennessee?
on some
I've
kind
got
of camel
family
shagging
in
tour?
Tennessee, actually. I fucking hope he's not doing stuff
You
with or
better
to them.
phone them up. It's the Chris warning. Chris warning. Boop, boop, boop. They'll be hiding in their storm basements. And then I thought I'd see what our friend Sean is up to. And this was quite funny. So I sent him a thing saying, "Would you like to be on the podcast?" And he said he just sent back his location. Right, just here's my location. I looked at it, and it was in. I thought it was Germany. Just a quick glimpse of the map, but it turns out he's in Holland. And then 5 seconds later, he says to me, "Since I've been here, I've seen 2 vaginas." Just like out of the blue. I'm like, "What are you on about?" And he's like, "It seems for some reason Dutch women don't wear underwear." And I'm like, "I will be right there." And then later on, he texted me and said, "I've seen 3 vaginas now." He's like, "One of them couldn't have been a day under 50. I'm like, "Thanks for that, Sean."
Is he trying to be the little boy that put his finger in a dick?
I think if he's trying to put his finger in a dike, he's getting it all wrong.
Definitely not doing it right. Yeah, these But you just said that out of the blue, so I sent him back. Knock knock. So one of you do the knock knock thing with me. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, who?
Nicholas girls shouldn't go to Holland when Sean's there.
Hey! Round of applause. I'm actually gonna drop some applause
I'm sure
in
your
there.
baby will appreciate that one.
Well, yeah, when she's 18, and I'd already pre-deleted the podcast by the time my daughter's old enough to listen to them.
Well, the police would have removed it by then, I should.
Well, yeah, I mean, they'll probably take away my computer, John's computer, and anyone else linked with this kind of dodgy ring that is known as balls on a tray. They'll be like, "That's definitely dodgy. Just look at the name. We're taking that computer."
Having that. There you go.
What else was I going to say? What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Has anyone got a printer? I just want to have a little moan about fucking printers.
I use a printer
Not
at
anymore.
work. I don't have a printer at home. I'm not a lunatic.
No, printers are okay if you spend like £850,000 on them, right? Well, I've got a printer that I spent about 40 quid on. And the other day, I was trying to print something on it, and I tried to print it out. I printed out 3 pages, but it took about 17 head cleans. And then eventually I managed to print out 3 colour photos. I was like, "That's all right. Come out okay, not bad." Then I wanted to print out 2 black and white letters. And it said, "You've run out of cyan ink." And I said, "It's fine. I'm just printing black and white." I selected the black and white option, press print. "No, you've run out of ink."
It's very conversational, your interactions with this printer.
That's
Is it
what it's like. Well,
Siri
like,
or
yeah.
something?
No, it's very tediously. It's got this really small screen that takes about a week to scroll the whole message along as well. So it's a very slow conversation. Think that bit in that Matt Damon movie when he gets lost on Mars and he has to do it like one word at a time. That conversation is a bit like that. That's the one, yeah.
The one where he's on Mars, that would be The Martian then, wouldn't it?
The Martian, that's the one.
The Matt Damon movie where he gets lost on Mars.
I genuinely couldn't think what it was called.
It's called Lost.
Anyway, I would rather have been lost on Mars than dealing with this fucking printer. Right, so it goes, "You haven't got any cyan ink," and I'm like, "I don't give a fuck. I've got, and listen, I looked in my drawer. I've got no spare colours and 3 spare black cartridges. And we bought this printer because it comes with 4 separate cartridges. Because what normally happens is you get a mixed cartridge with all the colours in. You use up all the red, and then you have to throw the whole thing away because you've used up all the red. So we got one with all these separate cartridges, and you still can't print if any of them are empty. So I was like, fuck's sake. So ordered from Amazon, 4-pack of printer cartridges, black, cyan, magenta, yellow. Bang on. Next day, printer ink turns up, fantastic. Open it all up, start putting it in. I've got 2 blacks, a fucking magenta and a yellow, and no cyan. It's like a sealed pack. It wasn't like some cheap fucking reseller. It's like a real authentic pack. I was like, fuck's sake. So then I had to take that to the post office and send it back. So, okay. Amazon sent me another one. Came the next day, had the correct ink in it. Fine, no problem. But I was meant to send it back, and it says, print out this label and stick it to your parcel. And I was like, for fuck's sake. It's like,
So good. Hang on. I got distracted by some bit at some point during that story. So why couldn't you get the printer to just print it back?
it won't let you.
Just refuse to do that.
It says you've got no ink. It says you've run out of ink. And I say, I haven't run out of black. I've got like a whole cartridge of black. But I had no cyan.
Have you filled up the cyan cartridge with some sort of syrup, like the inside of a cream egg? It wouldn't know. It would probably, and it wouldn't use the cyan. It would just say, "Oh, that's full of cyan ink." And as long as you remembered before you then tried to print out a family photo or something,
You could like print out an egg.
you'd be
Couldn't you?
okay.
Right. It's not a bad
it'd be like
idea.
a string of cream egg syrup.
But honestly,
Look
like, I mean,
At least that's what you could
really
tell
like
people.
to say.
Yeah.
We've all used that excuse. No, I feel like the printer with cream egg inside. That's all that is. Yeah. I printed out that magazine from the printer, and it's just got cream egg on it. So yeah, sorry, I'll throw it away.
if there was any other product now on the market that treated their customers as shittily as printer manufacturers, I don't know how the fuck it would survive. I don't understand how printers get away with it. Like, as an example, we've actually got 2 printers. We've got a normal kind of DeskJet printer thing, you know, for printing out A4, and we've got a small portable photo printer. So I tried to use the photo printer first because it's actually easier and it does a better job. And that one says, I've run out of ink. I'm like, okay, no problem. We've actually got a spare ink cartridge for that one. I put it in and it comes up, cartridge error. Basically, fuck you and your 25 quid you spent on ink. I just don't like it. So tough shit. I've decided, the printer says, I am better than you and your cartridge is worth fuck all to me. So I was just fucking, I don't know any other industry. Do you know anyone that's ever bought a printer and thinks, that was a really good purchase? I fucking hate them so much.
You've just got to use them regularly, that's all. If you only use it every now and again, then yeah, it's a pain in the arse.
Well, that's the other thing. The amount of ink I've used, like just cleaning out the cartridges and stuff to make it work when I want to use it. The other day, so after about 6 head cleans, I press a button to print out like a test page, and it prints out a test page. And when it eventually looks okay, I'm like, okay, now I can do some proper printing. The test page comes out and says I've printed like 160 pages in 5 years. And I swear to God, 150 fucking 8 of those were test pages.
So I'm gonna ask. I think I heard this. How much did you pay for said printer?
Like 40 quid. They're saying the printers are cheap.
£40.
Yeah, they are cheap. Printers are cheap because they know that they've got your balls in a vice then, and you have to buy the ink forever at the cost of £84,000 per fluid ounce or something fucking ridiculous.
I think this is unlike you, Tony. I feel like
I think you could buy racehorse spunk for cheaper prices. Well, I did consider buying a laser printer, but then it's like 200 quid and like 100 quid for ink, which will last me forever. But then that's 300 quid for 150 pages over 5 years. So
you
that
wouldn't have to worry about any of this. You'd be able to eat your cream eggs for a start.
Of course, what you could have done is just got your lazy ass to work and printed it out there.
Yeah, but I'm not at work at the moment, am I? I'm not at work. I would have done that.
Just go in. There'll be a treat for them to see. I bet they will miss you so much.
I did take the baby. I did take the baby into work, actually. It was quite nice because a few people came down and held the baby for a bit, and I didn't have to. I quite liked that.
See, there was the perfect opportunity to say, actually, while you're holding the baby, I've just got some prints to do. I'll just be a couple of minutes, and then the job would have been
I could have done that, to be honest, but by that point, I'd already ordered the ink and all of that bollocks. But I don't know. I mean, is it just me? I mean, has anyone else ever been happy with a printer? Like,
I've got to be honest. I've got an HP Envoy desktop multifunction thing, which is Wi-Fi and it just works, and I quite like it. I've got
Well, no,
it.
this one's Wi-Fi and it does AirPrint. It's got a scanner. It all works.
Well, yeah,
apart from the actual
apart,
printing bit.
apart from the bit that doesn't work for you, which is
How much did your printer cost, John?
that one was about 90 quid. But I've also got I've got a Design Jet large format, which Sarah uses to print canvases on. That was about 900.
I've got a Design Jet large format. Well,
I
hey.
have indeed.
I've heard all about your Design Jet large format,
Well,
John.
I've also got the 3D printer. Yeah, this is a printer of sorts.
I heard all about your 3D printer,
Yeah,
John,
you
and
know,
the stuff you've been printing
when
on
you
it, which
get
is
the
actually
3D.
quite unacceptable.
Did you ever print that Lara Croft fleshlight?
Anyway, moving on.
I don't even know how that would be really hard. Like, it's not a good.
It would be really hard if it had Lara Croft on it and John was about. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, we didn't really ask Mark. How you been? What you been up to?
Usual, playing some games, watching too much TV. Usual stuff. Not working. I'm taking it easy.
Working hard or hardly working? Yeah.
Dying in the sun.
Oh yeah, of course you're one of these like sort of quasi goth types, aren't you? Who melts in the sun like a.
You
like
mean
an ice
Irish
cream.
people?
Yeah, that's what I meant by quasi goth types. Yeah.
No, I stay out of the sun usually, but when it's sunny, I don't mind going out because it gives me a chance to put my sunglasses on, which you can't do in the rain because you just look stupid. But on Monday night, it was just too warm. I could barely get to sleep. Lying on top of the covers, like, nope, too warm. Couldn't do anything. It's like,
I'll tell you what, I have recently discovered an amazing technique for sleeping in hot weather. You'll
Sleeping
love this,
outside?
right? No, it's brilliant, right? All you do is, well, that would work, yeah. No, all you do is you get your wife pregnant, have a baby, and then you can sleep anywhere,
At any
anytime,
time.
upside down, in a bin, wet, like bent over a log backwards. I guarantee you I could sleep anywhere. And I didn't even really notice. I suddenly saw people on Facebook and Twitter going, oh, it's so hot and sweaty, I can't sleep. And I'm like, no, I didn't even notice. I mean, in 2-hour bursts I was sleeping like a fucking baby. It was, so there you go. That's the top tip for you.
okay, I'll have to look on rentababy.com.
Babiesovernight.com. That was the GTA thing, wasn't it?
No, Mark, I had to close the site down.
All right, okay.
I won't be able to get on.
Joel, I wasn't going to do this because I don't want to talk about it too much, but we gave our baby her very first bath today because they tell you for the first few weeks it's best not to bathe a baby because, like, you know,
They get
keep their
used to
skin-
life of luxury. Yeah, so like you shouldn't give them champagne. First couple of weeks, you shouldn't give them champagne, should you?
Yeah, it's only vodka for the first couple of weeks. Otherwise, they get a bit posh. But no, they had to tell you not to bathe them for the first few weeks, just because you're washing off all the sort of good oils and stuff off their skin.
I'm going to hold my hand up here. So I first found out about this thing from my friend Dan, has had several kids.
Are we talking about?
Are you talking about Tony's baby?
Washing
No,
baby.
you're talking about where kids came from.
This washing and not washing
So I can draw you a
babies.
picture.
This washing and not washing babies thing.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And the youngest one, who's now like going to school and stuff, but it was like, first bath was like after 6 weeks or something. And I was like, that's fucking gross. Well,
This was 5 weeks.
because it retains all the natural. No, what you mean? I know what you're covered in when you come out, and all right, it's natural, but I'm gonna say that that's just fucking gross. And frankly, we've survived for many, 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 many generations. I was washed as soon as I was born. That's probably you.
Well,
were.
I mean, they do
all right.
They do
John's
clean
turned
you
out
up.
fine, Tony.
Yeah, but look at him. Look at that skin. I mean, that
It's
thing is
really
that
good skin. It's really nice skin.
He doesn't look a
Nice.
day under 80. But no, I mean, like they.
Whoa.
I mean, obviously they clean you up and stuff when you come out. She came out literally blood red, and then by the time I saw her, she was all cleaned up. But yeah, they tell you not to give them a bath. Anyway, so today she'd had learned lots of incidents, and we thought it's time for a bit of a bath, and we gave her a bath. It was really nice. It's quite a nice thing to do. She seemed to enjoy it. She was like giggling and all this. It was great. And I took her out of the bath and I got her in the towel, and sort of starting to put her into the towel position, and I'm suddenly like, there wasn't this much water on her when I took her out of the bath. There's all this water coming from. Oh no! So it's like all down my leg and on the floor, and I'm like, oh, brilliant. And then we'd just already taken the plug out of the bath, so that was just a real pain in the ass, but just thought it was a slightly amusing moment.
Yeah,
And the first
Did
time
you
I've been
get-
covered in piss.
yeah,
so
I was
that's
just going to say that's not your first golden shower.
That is my first. That's my first piss splashing. Because she's a girl. If it was a boy, I would have been hosed a number of times by now. I'm fairly sure.
Pretty.
No, but I was going to say
right.
though, I mean, I was kind of with John, but I just took the advice, and but now we've washed her. Like her whole body's covered in like slightly flaky, dry skin. I'm like, this was a mistake. We've got a baby now. It looks like a man with
Don't
like really bad
don't wash
eczema.
them. God doesn't want you to wash them. We didn't have
Yeah,
baths
man.
back in caveman days.
Yeah. I just think it might have been a mistake. She looks all flaky now. She looks like a fucking flapjack.
Well, that's what you get for rubbing her down with 800 grit paper. Try using a towel next time,
I
you lunatic.
did use towels I nicked from Travelodge. She could also use to round off door handles. Yeah.
So I was going to ask while you were mid soliloquy. So your nighttime sojourns is the Switch doing its job?
Do you know what? I have barely played the Switch. You know, the first week or two I was on, I played the Switch quite a bit because we didn't have like anywhere to put the baby downstairs really in the first few days, so we were sort of kind of stuck in the bedroom a bit. So when the baby was asleep, I didn't really want to go downstairs because baby was upstairs. So I just ended up sitting there playing the Switch. But since the baby's been downstairs, I've been able to get into the other room and play God of War endlessly. So I haven't used the Switch as much as I thought I would. It occurred to me today when she was asleep across me that I could still play Switch if I had the controller split. So that might be something I might try and bust out and do a bit more of now. Now I've thought of that.
You play your
Didn't
PS4
really
on your
occur to me.
Vita?
It can do, but it's pretty fiddly though, isn't it? If it had those extra 2 triggers, I think that would be a really good option. But
If you're a fan of really compromised experiences, which knowing your life you are, then you could definitely play Vita remotely.
well, my entire life is now a compromised experience. So, but see a night's sleep, fuck that, no chance. But yeah, it's a shame. If they'd have stuck 2 extra triggers on the Vita, that would have been a brilliant option. But unfortunately, it's really not. Well, I suppose since we've accidentally drifted into talking about games, perhaps we should properly talk about some games. So, as we've played a lot of God of War and talked a lot of God of War, let's talk about something else. So, Mark, what have you been up to?
Well, I bought recently Detroit Become Human, and I hadn't played Heavy Rain, so it's first time playing a game of that sort of experience. I believe Heavy Rain is the same thing. You get your story, you get your cutscenes, you get your press this button for this action.
Yeah.
So it was-
So you haven't played Fahrenheit or Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls?
I played Fahrenheit, but I don't remember Fahrenheit being that sort of game. I remember Fahrenheit, you actually used a controller to run around and do stuff, and you had a sort of like an open world, and you went from your apartment to the diner and other locations, church and stuff. It wasn't as video centric and needing to hit buttons to make decisions. It was more like you press your button for search, do your running, do your jumping, do your climbing. Unless I'm remembering Fahrenheit completely wrong, but
I don't know. And you've got me wondering now whether I'm misremembering. I don't think I
I
ever
think
finished Fahrenheit.
it skewed a little bit more towards wandering around than the others. But all of them do have wandering around in an environment. But I think there was more of that in Fahrenheit, definitely.
Okay. Well, so
I'm sorry. We should talk about something else. I've killed that. I'm sorry.
well, I got Beyond Two Souls from PlayStation Plus, but I haven't played it yet, so I don't know if that's the exact same style.
see, now I'm quite interested to hear what you made of Detroit Become Human, because I've read a lot of kind of sort of mixed opinions on it. I've read of quite a few people just saying they really enjoyed it, and then quite a lot of people sort of treating it like some kind of art critic and being very down on it. So I'm quite interested to see where you, as a kind of average gamer, fall on it.
Well, when I got it, I was thinking, am I going to enjoy this because of the way it's built, that you get your story and you just press an X, circle, triangle, pyramid, whatever you want to call them, as you're going. And I absolutely loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I started on Saturday and beat it on a Sunday.
Yeah, they
There's,
do tend to be the kind of game you get into and sort of blast through, don't they?
I got
like that
really
Craig
into the
David
story. No, I got really engrossed in the story. I wanted to see how it developed. Obviously, the game is based around 3 characters, and I couldn't pick a favourite, as I prefer this guy, didn't like that one. I was just totally engrossed in all of them, loved the way it went. There are some sort of like quick time events where you got to press the button and you don't get a chance to do it again. If you miss it, you miss it. Story progresses.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely fantastic. Because it's sort of more confined, you don't get a full freedom to walk wherever you want in a set location. So, like, I mean, if there's a place where you have to go to and it's a house, you can maybe wander through some rooms, but you don't get to wander the whole house and spend as much time as you want searching everything. So that way they could obviously focus on just making those small locations look as detailed as possible. And the game looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, you've got a bit of freedom to go around different parts of the rooms and stuff, but it all just looks absolutely fantastic. The main character, well, the girl who I originally seen the video of, I recognised her from a TV show The Following, serial killer thing with Kevin Bacon in. So I recognised her face, so I knew she was in it, and I didn't know anyone else in it. And as the game started, there was 3 other names come up during the credits at the start. Like, I know him. Oh, I know him. Oh, I know her. So it was a pleasant surprise. And most of them look sort of like the characters of the actor. You know, they're very lifelike.
Yeah.
So you've got Clancy Brown. So I know him. He was the Kurgan in Highlander, sort of Colin McLeod's main rival. You've got Minka Kelly. She was in Van Helsing. She was also in one of the Need for Speed games as well. And Lance Hendrickson. And strange enough, he wasn't playing an android.
Lance Hendrickson, is he the one that played the android from Aliens? Is that
Bishop, right? Yeah, Bishop. Yeah.
Bishop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, that's some seriously encyclopedic film knowledge there, though. You're like the new Sean. I'm glad. Fuck Sean. He can spend his time vagina spotting. We've got a new film buff here.
Well, there are
I thought that's pretty much what
people
Sean did anyway, to be honest.
He is a professional vagina spotter. Yes, it's hard to make a living from it, but you know, you get the odd snatch of success, and you can do well.
Oh, that's really good. That's oh my god.
Wow,
That's really good.
Did you really crowbar that in there?
It's very important to find your opening, I find, and slip it in when your opening makes itself available.
always knew he was a legend or legend.
A legend in my own lunchtime, yeah. So where were we? With Sean was vagina spotting. So, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. That was it. So yeah, about the sort of decisions in Detroit Become Human. Like Heavy Rain had some really kind of heavy, fucked up stuff. Does it get quite heavy emotionally, or is it just kind of like, I don't know? I wasn't expecting to be just like lightweight decisions, but do you know what I mean? Is there anything that you thought, fuck me, that's really hard? Not in that such. Like, I mean, if you think of the way sort of racism works and segregation, you get elements of that into it, because you're talking about, are these robots just robots, or are they life forms? Are they sentient? Should they have their own existence, or are they just there to serve? So you get that's the kind of main question, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a case of, do they think for themselves, or are they programmed to think that way? Do they actually feel? Did they make decisions based on emotion or based on programming?
It's kind of, I mean, having not played it, but having played other games of the same kind of ilk, it is hard to talk about those games, because obviously we don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't played it, and they are heavily, heavily story-based. But if they're like any of the other games as well, you could say, well, I did this and this and this, and it was really interesting, and this is how it ended. And there's no guarantee that anyone else playing it will get that same exact experience. I mean, I played Heavy Rain once and had all the trophies and stuff for doing all the different endings and stuff, but I just didn't want to do that, because I felt I'd made my decisions and I'd done what I did. And I could have tried it again, but it didn't feel like I wanted to do that. So do you feel like that with this? I know you're like mad kind of trophy hunter, but will you be going back and trying to just do it differently? I
might do it eventually, but I played through the game, beat the game, thought, right, well, let's have a look at all the trophies, the ones I didn't get. And for one of the first time ever, every trophy is a hidden trophy, so that was good. So I went through those, looked at all those, there's a lot of decisions you'd have to go back and chapter select, and you might have to make decisions really far back. So, but I was happy with the way my game ended. So I was like, I'm not going to go back. I might go back eventually, obviously, just to pick up the trophies. But with the way the game played out and the ending I got, I was quite happy with it. I didn't get the perfect ending, but I got one that I was happy with.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Heavy Rain. My story ended. It wasn't a perfect ending, and I made a few wrong decisions and a few mistakes as I went through the game, and maybe we might have played it. The only thing I do find with a game like that is, like, so you get your story and it plays out the way you played it, and I really like that. But just occasionally you sort of think, well, I'd quite like to have seen, you know what I mean? You feel like you don't see the full game in a decision-based game like that. You're like, well, I didn't really see what happened if I'd have done this. Or particularly if there was a decision that you were close on. Sometimes it's like, no question, I'm doing this. But if it was a close decision and you'd later think, well, just wonder what would happen if I'd have done that. Like Splinter Cell Double Agent, I think I mentioned this on here before. I played it once, and there was a bit you had to get to a bit and kill a guy. And it turned out, and I think I put the controller down and went to get a drink or something, and the guy went away, and then there was like a whole extra section of the level, something like that. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I basically changed my mind or made a different decision, and suddenly there was a whole extra bit of level that you could then do that I didn't even know anything about. It was like you kill him and then go and get in the helicopter or whatever, or you could do this whole extra section. So I'm like, I wonder how many games I've played where I've made a decision and missed huge chunks of the game.
When you beat a chapter in Detroit, it gives you sort of like a flow chart of your decisions, and like a branching tree going from left to right. And there's so many things on that are locked that you don't know what decision would have led to going off this other direction, and this goes into maybe 3 other decisions. Like, I didn't see any of this. I don't know when any of that could have been. So it's very good. Like, I mean, there was a demo. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, but the demo is the opening level.
Yeah.
So I hadn't played the demo because I thought, well, I'm not going to play that because I'm going to get the game because I want the game anyway. But my mate played the demo, so I was talking to him today, and we both got slightly different endings to the demo level. We got the same sort of result, but something else major happened with the other characters involved. And from what I've read, there's like 6 different ways the game could end, or that chapter could end. So me and him both doing our own thing, got completely different outputs. So
yeah, I mean,
if you want to try it, there's always that demo.
Yeah. I mean, well, I really enjoyed games like Heavy Rain, and I enjoyed Beyond Two Souls, even though most people didn't seem to like that too much. So yeah, I'd probably enjoy it. But with Heavy Rain, I thought one of the things that were interesting was not so much there were active choices like do I do A, do I do B. But in Heavy Rain, a lot of it was kind of a fairly quick moment to happen, and you had to do something quickly. And I made one particularly bad decision at one point there. And it wasn't so much even a decision, it was a reflex action. And I just thought that was kind of even almost more interesting than when you get told you've got to make this or this, and you sort of spend a bit of time pondering it. It's like my wife was playing one of the Fable games, and at the very start, you get like this king sort of says to you, what do you do? Do you kill person A or person B or something like that? And you have to decide. And she sat there for so long trying to decide that eventually they said, no, kill them all. I was like, wow. So, like, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting when that happens in a game, when you're on a time pressure. One of the things I enjoyed in Firewatch that we talked about was you have these conversations and you get like a countdown timer to which you can reply. And you don't have to say anything, so you don't have to reply. But if you don't, then that might just sort of cut the conversation short. So I found that I was answering more honestly and more kind of instinctively by just answering with that quick decision rather than looking and thinking, well, what do I want the game to do here? Do I want to choose this answer? Sounds quite nice. It might lead to another choice or whatever. So by doing it quickly, I found that was really interesting. And I don't know if Become Human does that.
Well, sort of. Like, I mean, you've got obviously there's times that you're playing the game and you can't rest. Like you're watching a cutscene, you maybe put the controller down. Can't do it with Detroit Become Human because you might get a split-second choice and you're like, need to react. Got it. Where's my controller? So you've got all that. Then you've got your, and there are some things that are sort of, like I said, sort of quick time.
Yeah.
And they can actually make a big difference in the way the output of, or the outcome of whatever situation you're in is going. But yeah, it's the story itself that really sold me. I just couldn't get enough of it. Like I say, I beat it in 2 days because it's just so engrossing. I wanted to know how the characters were going to develop. I wanted to see where the story was going to go. I wanted to see how they would maybe interlace the 3 different storylines. But yeah, it's fantastic.
Right. So from your point of view, it worked really well, and you enjoyed it, and that's cool. Yeah, so it's difficult, very hard to talk about story-based games, particularly new ones, where we don't really want to kind of spoil it for anyone. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Actually, well, because you're on, Mark, I was going to talk about, because I've mostly played God of War this time, which you played a lot, and I do want to talk about it a bit later. I know producer John's got a few things to say as well. But I wanted to talk about this game, OnRush. We played the beta the other day. No, that's the reaction, you see. We played the OnRush beta. I have to say, I quite enjoyed it. It's a kind of like non-stop arcade racer in the vein of like a Burnout, where you're always in like a pack. If you get too far behind, you get bumped back up into the pack. It's all about boosting and jumping and taking people down. It's not really a kind of serious racer. You're just kind of constantly boosting. The way you win is by doing certain amounts of boosting or going through certain amount of checkpoints and stuff like that. So it doesn't really matter where you are in the field. You can be at the back, you can be at the front. There are some benefits to being at the front, but mostly it's just kind of non-stop arcade action. But I played it with a group of us on a Monday night, pub quiz night, and I quite enjoyed it. But oh my god, everybody else, you would have thought it had come around, shit through their letterbox, and then burn their house down. It was like everybody was so negative about it, and I was slightly disappointed. To be fair, I would agree with anyone that it doesn't feel like a full price game to me. If it was a 20 quid PS Plus game, I'd be much more interested in it, because it's like a one-hit wonder. It just does one thing. It does it to me. To my mind, I thought it was fun and I enjoyed it, but I couldn't see myself paying like full price money for it. It was a kind of fun game, but not like not a full price game.
Yeah, like I mean, when you first sent me details about it and I read about it and all the different modes, I thought, oh, this sounds pretty good. And you don't have to be in first to win; you just have to be contributing to your team. And then we played it, and then we played another level, and then we played another round, and it just seemed to be all I was doing was holding down accelerate, pressing the boost button constantly, and steering left and right, and that was it. Every level was the exact same. There's no sort of sense of how well you're doing. At the end of the game, you get, you're first, second, third for your team, but those stats go by so quick you don't really get to see. But during the game, you can't really get a sense of, are you contributing to the team? Are you too far back? Are you doing well? Are you doing not? And then there was the trouble that sometimes you would get taken out, you'd respawn, and just as you're about to pick up some speed, you get taken out again.
And I agree with you that if those issues like the respawns and like a better sense of how you were doing on the team as like something like that was added in, I feel like it would be a much better game. But I just don't know, it didn't take as much away from it. Like everyone else was so hung up on those points, like, and it wasn't just Mark there, it was like a whole gang of like 4 or 5 people, and everybody hated it really, apart from me. I quite enjoyed it, but I read a lot of kind of positive stuff from like game sites and smaller sites and stuff that had done previews and I don't know, I thought it would be really fun. I did enjoy it, but everyone else seemed to just sort of get more hung up on the small stuff than I did. But that being said, based on what I played, I wouldn't buy it full price. If it had been 15, 20 quid, I might have been interested, but then no point if none of my friends like it. But no, it was just, I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was interesting, and I had read a lot of positivity about it, but when I played it, the group was like 90% negative. So I thought it was...
what price did Flat Out 4 go to recently? And you said it still wasn't worth it. It was like £8 or something.
Oh, yeah.
You were still like, no, it's still not worth it.
What a load of old shit that was. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. I think I did talk about it on the podcast. I hope so. Because that was just the biggest load of bollocks. That's the worst game I've bought in ages. It was just appalling. What a load of crap. But yeah, so that's OnRush, which I was disappointed in because, well, I'd say I liked it. It could have been better, and it just felt like with a few small tweaks, it could have been much better. And in that way, it reminded me of the newest Micro Machines game that they launched, which had all the fun of the original Micro Machines V3 on the PlayStation 1. And then they totally fucked it by ruining the way it worked online, so you couldn't have private games and all kinds of shit, and it was just completely bollocks. And OnRush feels like that. Like, just a few small changes could have made it a lot better a game, but I don't know.
So is it
fun.
purely a party game? Is it a must be played with 3 or more other people type game?
No, you can play it on your own, but I mean, you're going to be in a team, and it's true though, as Rook says, it's a team game. So if you're playing, out of your skin, and everyone else on your team is shite, you're still going to lose. But I found it just kind of like non-stop blast of action. You're not, you don't need to worry too much. And I like the way that it played, but it just felt like it was sort of some of the stuff around it that needed more. Like as Rook says, at the end there, it fires up the sort of league table for your team, and it comes up for about 2 seconds, and then it's gone. And that's about the only time you get any real sort of idea of how you did for your team. So there's not a lot of, all of his points are exactly fair, but I still enjoyed it, and everyone else just, oh man, they fucking hated it. So yeah, that's coming out in 3 or 4 days, so one to look forward to.
Or not.
If all your friends are not as miserable as mine, you might have a good time.
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay. Well, Simon, what have you been up to, Si?
Yeah, I've been playing a game called OnRush, and I think it's just so shit. No, I played on the Switch. There's a game called Picross, which is a Picross game, and it cost me about £7 or £8, and it's pretty good on the Switch. It's just a Picross game, but the Switch screen is a good size screen for Picross. Like I tried to play that sort of game on my phone, and it's a little bit fiddly. For those who don't know, Picross is kind of a cross between Sudoku. Chess. It's like chess, and so it's like Sudoku. Picross. So Picross is it's on the Switch, about £7 or £8. It's a good Picross game. Highly recommended. I think the Switch is a really good format for Picross. It's not as fiddly as a phone screen. It's a bigger screen. You can use the controllers. As I say, it's not touch compatible, which is perhaps a little odd, but no, it's fine. I think with the Switch, you're sat there holding it, and you have the 2 Joy-Cons either side, so you're kind of holding it like a controller. You don't really. Touch is just a kind of nice to have every now and then. Like it's not really. It's not natural to then reach around and touch the screen. You've got your hands on the controller. It's not natural
to reach around and touch it.
Yeah, but don't do that.
I have to say, actually, when I use the Switch, I very rarely ever use the touchscreen. But the time that I always suddenly use it is when like a keyboard comes up for something. I just, without even thinking about it, just start touching the touchscreen. That's the only time I really use it, though.
It's rare that I play a game. I can't think, what do I use touch on? I can't think that I use it on any games actually. But it's. I was thinking of getting the Football Manager game on Switch, and it would have been interesting if I had, and I could talk about it on this gaming podcast, but I didn't.
Aren't Football Manager games like acres of menus and digits and figures and tables, and would that work on a small screen?
Well, I mean, this is the beauty of it. It's not that small a screen. Basically, it's the tablet version of Football Manager, which is Football Manager Touch, and they ported that to Switch, and it's the same one that runs on iPad.
But even an iPad's got a lot bigger screen than a Switch.
It does, but the game runs on iPad Mini, which is probably comparable, right? So.
Yeah, the iPad Mini is a pretty small device, yeah, but then that's also a pretty old device now, so it's not really.
Yeah, but I think the Switch screen is just about big enough for some. Bigger screen, the better. But I think it probably would work. But it's about £30. I just didn't want to pay that. I think as I'm getting older, like I just can't face like a big strategy game. Like I don't have enough time to. I barely have enough time to play games like God of War, and I start to get resentful if they're longer than 10 hours. Let alone something like Football Manager where it takes 30 hours to do a season. So, so I played Picross on the Switch. That's pretty good. What else did I play? I played a little bit more of Zelda. Bought the DLC for Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch, which is quite fun. I've sort of gone back to that, and I started doing all the clearing through the map. There's like with the DLC, you get this feature on the map. One of the many things you get a feature on the map that shows your trail through the whole world. Yeah. It goes back like 120 hours or something, and I've only played the game for about 70, so I could see my route through the world, which was quite sort of nostalgic actually, and it was also useful because it shows you where you haven't been. But there's so much of that game I haven't done yet, so I was quite enjoying that, going off and exploring.
I definitely agree with your sentiment there. There's so much of that game I haven't yet touched. I haven't even loaded it yet. I've paid like full price for that game when I bought the Switch on day one, and it hasn't even been loaded. I do want to get into it, I really do, but I haven't even finished Mario yet, so I'll get through Mario and then maybe I'll start Zelda.
Yeah, definitely play the worst game first. That's the best thing to do.
Oh yeah, because Mario
think,
got such bad reviews, it was panned. Yeah,
it would have got panned by me.
You did fucking pan it. You banged on about it for ages, and then you came back on the next time and said, "Well, actually, I really enjoyed it."
I'd have panned it with an 8 out of 10.
Oh, blimey! You'd have been stoned in the street by hardcore Nintendo fanboys for doling out an 8.
Which is like a 1, isn't it, to Nintendo? Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much. Did I could swear to God I put something else on that sheet.
You put down that you play Rainbow Six Siege as well.
Oh, right, yeah, I've just been playing Rainbow Six Siege. I really like that game.
But then not some new operators come out for Siege recently.
Yeah, well, not yet. They at the moment they're just on the test server. Which I fucking like. If I could get away with that when I'm releasing software in my day job, like you go on the Ubisoft site at the moment, you're like, when do the fucking operators come out, Ubisoft? And they're like, oh well, the current release date is they're on our test server being evaluated. And I'm like, you motherfuckers! Like, you can't do that at work. I can't do that at work. Like if someone said to me, Simon, when are you releasing this new feature? And I'd be like, well, it's on the test server. And they said, well, that's not a fucking answer, is it? And you're obviously fired. So yeah, but they're quite interesting operators. There's Alibi and Maestro. They're both Italian, so they're obviously both going to be really good in bed, but a bit of a liability on the roads. Casual racism, but they one of them has holograms that she can put down, which sounds quite fun. Which looks like the player, and so when someone shoots one of the fake holograms, they appear on the map to everybody, which is quite nice for everyone but them. And then the defender guy is like a turret. You put a turret on the wall, and he can open the turret up and fire lasers at people in the back, which is quite fun.
Lasers.
So I'm looking forward to trying. Yeah, lasers, freaking laser beams.
Freaking laser beams. Wow, that does sound good.
So I'm looking forward to that. Pretty much at the cost of all other games. I bought Spintires. Which could almost be produced a John game.
Yeah, I fancied that. I fancy playing that. That's the sort of mud driving
it's like
game.
£16. Yeah, I really wanted it on PC, and it just appeared on PlayStation. So
is it actually any good? Is it fun?
I haven't played it. I don't actually play video games.
Oh, Mark's shaking his head vigorously, slapping his microphone around.
Haven't played it.
Doesn't like it.
One of my friends has played it and he reviewed it for another site, and I think he gave it like 1 out of 10. He called it a misery simulator.
Simon will love it.
It was no fun, and loads of people give him flack over it, saying, "What are you talking about? It's terrible. It's brilliant, it's brilliant, it's brilliant. You're just not into it. You don't understand it." And I seen a video of it, and it looked awful.
Maybe it's one of those ones like Farming Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator that kind of like has a really hardcore following, but a lot of people just find it impenetrable, much like this podcast. Except we haven't got the hardcore following.
I was going to say, hardcore following would be nice.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting.
So what's the conceit of Spintires?
So what it does really well is it models muddy ground really well. So it's set in the Russian wilderness, and I think there's a second map which they gave away for free, which I don't know much about. But basically, you're in the Russian wilderness, and you've got some kind of industrial vehicles. So maybe you have like a Jeep or something, but you have like some big trucks. There's one truck that might be loaded with logs, and there's another truck that's got this massive crane on the back, and you have like missions. So it's like you need to get the big log truck across the muddy Siberian forest to the other side of the map. And it kind of, I don't know if it's realistic or not, but it certainly has deep like modelling of its interpretation of physics. And so if you go through some mud and leave a bump or trail, then there's that kind of bump, that uneven ground becomes even more uneven or whatever. And you can just you have control over. You have some sort of limited simulator control, so you can like turn on diff and stuff. And if you get stranded, say your big log truck gets stranded, you can send out a rescue vehicle, and then you switch to the rescue vehicle back at your base, and you have to go out and try and rescue the bigger vehicle by pushing it or dragging it back out. But then you're on your third vehicle. So it's kind of, yeah, I think it strikes me as a game that is all about feel and like tactile feedback as you're playing it, and it's also a bit different. Like I kind of really want to. When I play games now, I really want to play something I've not played before. Like that's why when I jokingly say, "Oh, I think Zelda's a much better game than Mario Odyssey," is because I played Mario Odyssey. I played Mario Odyssey in 1996, basically, and it just has better graphics now. Whereas Breath of the Wild for Zelda was a completely new game to me. Like, it was a very different experience. So when I look at something like Spintires on a much smaller scale, I look at that and think, well, that's a driving game that's all about mud. It's basically just about how good is our mud modelling. Come and play an entire game about it. So its full price is 35, but it was reduced to 16. I thought, well, for 16 quid, you know,
Yeah,
I throw
really
away
interested
16
to
quid at
see.
Starbucks every day. So
Just for one croissant, yeah. No, I'd be interested to see what you make of it, because it sounded interesting to me, but whether interesting makes an entire game, I don't know. I mean, Zen Drift, I really enjoyed. And that's just basically one thing, drifting cars. That's a whole game made out of that. So
At least that
What?
car moved. Yeah, truck gets stuck in the mud and spin tires, and that's you stuck.
Well, only if you're shit.
I quite
surely.
like being in the rain as well in life. Not in the rain, but inside a car or a house when it's raining. And I feel like in Spintires, I might get that nice feeling. Like even when I kind of skid round a corner and I'm stuck and I'm jammed against a tree, I'll have a moment where I'm like, well, at least I'm still inside this car. I kind of like
Pop the
that.
aircon on, yeah.
Yeah, when I have car accidents in real life, I often think that wedged against the tree. I think, well, at least I'm inside the vehicle still. So yeah, I'll report back on that when I play it in 2019. Yeah, and I'll report
I'm
back
going
on
to get.
Siege
I'm going
as
to
well.
get that as well.
It's
gonna get
multiplayer,
that as well.
John. Imagine how much fun would it be? Imagine how fun it would be. I go off with my log truck, and I call you up and say, John, can you join the game and come and rescue me? And you come out and you get
'Cause I'm
stuck as well.
stuck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
that would
fun.
be so
That'd be
much
fun.
Yeah, that would be
I am looking forward to you coming on and saying, no, it was shit.
Yeah, was it? John and I are speaking to each other.
fun. Shit.
John got
yeah.
exploded against a tree.
It sounds interesting.
buy
I think I need at least a thumbs up from somebody that I trust. So if anyone else you know is playing it, do let me know. Okay.
Every time.
I want to just go back to a bit of God of War. I know we've had a couple of very heavily God of War podcasts, but now obviously me and John discussed this a little bit before a podcast, and the ending of God of War. Now, John, what were you saying about the ending? I mean, obviously we're not going to spoil the actual story or whatever, but you had some reservations.
Yeah, so I think that the way that I put it in our notes is where I got to the end and it kind of felt finished but not finished.
Now,
The end. I found that the end just kind of happened, and for me, although again with no specific spoilers, although if you know the story, you can kind of guess. Although there was the sort of the emotional full circle, and there was some really nice exposition in there, which sort of explained a few things and tied up some ends and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of after all of the struggle and the challenge and everything, it kind of just went,
now, yeah,
are
I
you
felt
done now?
a little bit like that. But what I wanted to say to you is, did you actually get to the ending? Because
Yeah.
I found out that I didn't. I was like you, and I was like, I'm disappointed with that. That's just sort of petered out. And then somebody said to me, I messaged somebody and said, I was a little bit disappointed with the ending. And they said, have you seen the ending? And I'm like, well, the credits rolled. And they're like, no, have you seen the credits? Like the black screen with just text credits. And I'm like, no. So I'm wondering if John's in the same situation. There's like one more location you have to go to after you see the credits over the game. There's one more location you go to that kind of gives you a bit more of an ending. And it's not particularly obvious that that's what you're supposed to be doing. So you may have done what I did and missed it.
Well, yeah, I just kind of went, oh,
So did I. And I
That's
went
it then.
off and I did a few of the things. I went to one of the other realms.
Yeah.
There's a kind of realm where you can do pretty much side world realm, where you don't need to go there for any reason. So I went off to do that, and I did a few other things. But then when I went back into the sort of realm travel area, there was a bit of dialogue came up about going home, and I was like, oh, I'm supposed to go home. And then there was another bit of dialogue with some other characters, and then you eventually go home, and then there's a bit at the end there. So yeah,
well, how come that wasn't made more clear then?
Yeah, I
Come on,
agree
John,
with you, John.
John.
It was-
Don't you remember
It
the
was-
bit at the end of The Godfather where it's the end, but then Francis Ford Coppola, you have to go to his house and he gives you the actual ending. And the same thing happened at the end of Pulp Fiction as well. You remember every great story, you have an ending, but it's a secret ending, you know?
To be fair, like, how old is Red Dead Redemption now? Because I feel like I need to talk about the end of Red Dead Redemption.
I think you can get away talking about the end of Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah,
it's not even that good.
Well, the point is, at the end of Red Dead Redemption, your character dies, doesn't he? And then it sort of cuts away, and you come to, like, there's your grave, your character's grave, and then you play the son of your character, and then you can carry on and do any side missions or exploring anything you missed out, which was a really nice way of kind of rounding off the character and still letting you play. So I was like, that's quite cool. But then it turns out you go to a town, and you meet someone there, and then there's a whole set of extra missions that all kind of tie into the story of your father, and it kind of wraps up the whole game really nicely, like it puts a little bow on it. And this is very similar to how God of War has done it. I'm sure that's where they got the inspiration from, because you feel like you've ended it, and you're like, oh, that's nice, it's come to an end, but you feel it's not really quite the end, and then there's a little bit more that you kind of almost have to find. To be fair, it tells you that we should go home at the end of God of War.
It says
then,
return to Tyr's temple.
But, well, yeah, but then
I know that because that's the only place I can go.
But it doesn't tell you. It doesn't make it really, really obvious.
No.
But it sort of spells it out. And once you go back to Tyr's temple, actually, it does. Characters there kind of spell out to you that you're heading home, sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I was like that because I went to the realm travel bit, and then I travelled to another realm and thought, well, I'll start doing a few of the side missiony bits, and started travelling about and just collecting things up and doing stuff. And I got a bit bored of that. And then I realised after this text conversation with Johnny Cox, who's been on the podcast a load of times, that I hadn't actually quite got to the end proper. One thing that's a little bit strange with it as well, which I don't think I'm spoiling anything for anyone, but there's obviously this number of realms that you can travel to. It seems to me that once you get to the end, you still can't travel to all the realms, which is a bit odd.
Oh, I wonder what that could possibly mean.
And I'm like,
he makes the international sign for money into the camera.
Well, I thought that. I was like, is it DLC or are they setting up for a sequel? I feel like the game's setting up for a sequel, which is great because I loved it. And I should add that, but despite all this talking about it, I haven't really said, because before, we were talking about the story. I agree with you, actually, Simon, now, having played it all through. The story's not as satisfying as something like The Last of Us. It doesn't quite get as emotional, and at a couple of points, it kind of,
it doesn't stand a chance, because it's just so fucking stupid. But sorry, go on.
Well, compared to, The Last of Us did this thing where it kind of skipped an entire season, so it could, like, have characters being quite kind of not knowing each other really well, and then like next thing it's 6 months later, and therefore they could get away with having the characters change more quickly. True. In God of War, they kind of do that over the course of your kind of 30-hour story. So there's a couple of points where characters seem to suddenly change a bit rapidly, and you're like, well, I don't really understand why they've changed their tune so quickly, but it kind of all just ties in with the way the game works. The Last of Us got away with that better by having those time gaps in the story. And to be honest, God of War could have done that if it was like, instead of traveling between realms, you had to literally walk there, or, they could have got away with it pretending it's like a month's journey and therefore change the characters along that kind of story. But I mean, yeah, it's not as good. I mean, you said last time, you can't talk about it in the same sentence. It's not as advanced, not as
it's just
brilliant, but it's still really enjoyable, the story. I really liked it, and very clever the way it ties together some of the original Greek mythology from the original games and the Norse mythology from the new game. And it's a brilliant answer to the question, what do we do with God of War? Now Kratos has fucking murdered every single Greek god and mythological beast. Move him to the Norse mythology. It's a very clever answer, and it works really well, and it fits with the story that he's kind of hiding out from his past in a different world, and I think it's really it works well. You said you didn't really like the you said, well, why did it even have to have all that mythology and stuff? And I love that about the God of War games. I always thought that was really clever. Really like that. It's just so unique.
It's basically the interesting part of it for me. To be fair, I can't remember exactly what I said or what I might have been banging on about, but I think for me, what I will couch my criticism of God of War in is the fact that people don't care necessarily about this, and I don't think I do anymore because I'm not sure it bears any relation to my opinions. But the wider games media, and it's not just games media now, because media outlets like The Guardian and The Telegraph or whatever review video games. They all gave it 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 at least, right? Masterpiece, right? So when you're if you want to say to me, I've played a lot of video games to my discredit in my life. If you want to say to me that God of War's a 10 out of 10, and people don't, these outlets, they don't review games at 10 out of 10 that often, right? Breath of the Wild last year, 10 out of 10. Even like Mario Odyssey, which everybody was critically acclaimed, people still weren't giving it 10s. They were very careful to give it 9s or 9.5s. But they're not saying it's a 10. It's not like an absolute masterpiece. So if all these outlets are giving God of War a 10, and again, it's fine if people don't care about what review scores are given, but when I do read reviews sometimes, and I have outlets that I might trust, and it's the same for films, right? So if all the gaming websites are giving it 10 out of 10 and saying this is a masterpiece, and they say, oh, it's the story's incredible, it really humanizes Kratos, whatever, and then when I play it for 20-25 hours, and I kind of stop playing it around the time when you go to Helheim and you come back, and I haven't gone back to it. And I'm sure I will eventually, but I'm not that into it, basically. And like, so when I criticize God of War, it's me saying it's obviously a really good game, and it plays quite well, right? But if you're giving it 10 out of 10, you're saying it's one of the best games ever made, right? You've got no room to say. For me, The Last of Us is a better game, like definitively.
Oh no, I agree.
Right? So,
I agree,
so
definitely,
if you're saying God of War's a masterpiece, it's 10 out of 10 across the board. Where do you go after that? You're basically saying, if you want to play a video game right now on your PS4, you're buying a PS4, you haven't played a video game ever in your life, and you want to play a mature game with mature themes, and you say, which game should I play, Simon? I'm telling you, The Last of Us straight away is the first game you should play. I'm not saying God of War, like it's not like if you.
No, I know what you mean.
Like Last of Us plays really well. I'll keep zeroing on The Last of Us because it's another PlayStation exclusive for comparison. It plays really well, but the story's miles ahead. Like you can't. If you tell me that Kratos and his son, is there any sense of peril at any point? Like he's a god, and like Kratos is obviously he's not going to get killed. Like the story on. Obviously, the story makes a certain logical sense, but on any kind of like, what are you trying to say with your story? Why am I sitting here for 20, 30, 40 hours and watching the story? What is the point of what you're trying to say? Like, I'm lost. Like, I don't know are you trying to make me feel emotion? Because are they trying to make me feel emotion? Because I don't feel any emotion watching this because there are no stakes. Like, I know they're not going to kill the boy off because he's a part of the gameplay. They're not going to kill Kratos off. Like, it's not. Yeah, like, obviously I'm harping on too much and I'm implying that I think it's a bad game. I don't. I'm just saying that if it's going to get reviewed across the board and be seen by the gaming media as a masterpiece, it ain't. It just ain't.
I'm with you that it's a 9 rather than a 10, 100%. It's a really, really good game. It's not as good. It's not an absolute masterpiece, but I do really, really like it. I was just in my head tuning out what you were saying. And I was thinking, do I like it better than Horizon Zero Dawn? And it's really close for me.
It's a huge no for me. Like, I much prefer Horizon.
I think I prefer God of War.
No, I have to say I agree with Simon. I think the look of God of War is fantastic. The way it's been put together is really, really nice. The way that the mythologies have been obviously very well researched. The stories, I mean, to be honest, and I think maybe this is telling, one of my favourite bits was paddling the boat around the lake in circles, picking up useless coins, and listening to a severed head tell stories. And doing nothing. Yeah, basically, listening to a severed head telling me stories about Norse mythology. That was, for me, actually one of the most interesting bits of the game.
No, that character was very good, very good.
And I think that I think Simon's hitting the nail on the head. At no time was there any sense of peril. I mean, you are a god escorting effectively a very small child to undertake a task. There should be some risk there, but very quickly you realise that kid's never going to die. So, whatever. We'll spam his arrow, and occasionally he gets hit and falls over. But really, he's kind of. To
be fair, though, like just about every game has that thing where you're not going to die. It's just a thing that happens in games, isn't it? Like you have a battle, if you lose it, you just press a button and you do it again.
But if the writing's good, it can make you think. Like I was playing Uncharted 4,
you can still care.
And I'm thinking, oh, Christ, are they going to kill off Person X? Like in Uncharted. Like Uncharted is Uncharted. It's kind of light-hearted, but I'm still playing that and thinking, I don't know where this is going. Like this, they could kill off Person X here.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of expecting it. And that's just excellent writing, because you could, like Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, they're kind of, they had their moments of perhaps peril or whatever, but you can't. They're in the same ballpark as God of War in the, you're sitting there and you're playing them, you're thinking, I'm not going to kill Drake off, are they? In the same way, I'm going to kill Kratos off. It almost makes as little sense. But I'm playing Uncharted 4 and I'm thinking, Christ, are they going to kill Drake in this game? Like, whereas, Uncharted 4 is not a masterpiece of storytelling, but it's a fucking brilliant game and it has a really good story and it has an incredible payoff at the end. There's a difference between that and God of War, I think.
The thing about God of War, though, is like, is there not like, there's an entire storyline is basically you and your son, which to me leads almost inexorably to a point where Kratos dies and is replaced by his son. Maybe not in this game, maybe in another game, but I really got the impression that Kratos could have died in that game, or could die in the game.
If Kratos died, I wouldn't care. Like, I don't. Like, what is he? He's not actually like. There are no stakes. Like, he's died. Like, he's a god, and I'm not sure what that means. And it's like, well, if he dies, then kind of fucking good, because I don't. Why would I sympathise with him at all? Like, he's not. There's no charm to him.
Yeah, there were very few points, if any, through playing through that game that he was sympathetic or engendered any kind of emotional response from me. And I mean, I realise that's not saying much, given that I'm a fairly fucking unemotional individual anyway. But at no point did I think, oh shit, that's a fucking shame, or anything like that. It was just like, whatever.
No, I thought there were some really nice moments in it. I really liked, actually.
I'll say there were few. I mean, the one that you highlighted last time was when he sort of reached out his hand and then pulled it back, and you're like, okay, well that's almost a human moment. But at the same time, because of what you know about him, you think, he just can't be arsed.
But that's the kind of whole subtext of the game, is that Kratos obviously does care, but he just doesn't know how to show it. He's like, there's this mission, like he was in the earlier games, just like this sort of whirlwind of rage, like they're showing the more human side of him. So he's never going to just suddenly get really soft.
But that was lost. I think that was lost. And I mean, the establishment at the start was he was out testing himself. And I don't know if you got or you've seen the animated comic thing, which came with one of the editions. I got it.
Oh yeah, I think I did get that. I haven't looked at it there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little story, and it's animated. It's not even barely animated. It's comic strip, and it just goes through it. And it's no spoilers. Basically, he goes out into the wilds in the near the woods where he is, and he basically sets himself up, and he gets attacked by a pack of wolves. And he doesn't kill them; he just fights them to a standstill. And he does this because he's trying to learn to control this uncontrollable rage that he has because of who he is. And you think, okay, well, I can see there's a direction there. There's something which he is trying to do. There's a goal. There's a quest, a personal quest that he's on. And occasionally that bubbles through in the game. But apart from that, no, that's actually one of the primary tools in his arsenal. So, yeah, just carry on. Just keep doing what you're doing, mate.
You're right, and and this is the thing. I think if you want, like I said, if you want to tell me a story about, I think I said this last podcast. You want to tell me a story about a woman dies and her son, an estranged or husband who's not always there or whatever. Like, her hard-nosed warrior husband comes back. Well, the father comes back, and the boy and the husband go off on a quest to the top of a mountain to get rid of her ashes, right? You want to tell me and it's set in Norway, right? Or Scandinavia or whatever, and maybe there's fantasy beasts in it or something. That kind of doesn't matter. Fine. That's actually quite an interesting premise, right? You can't have a guy wandering around painted white and red who never fucking says anything. It doesn't work. You need Mads Mikkelsen playing the fuck or something. You can't.
But
It just doesn't work. Like it's madness. You might as well have Sonic the fucking Hedgehog sat there.
You feel like you've
fucking-
entirely missed the point of God of War, like massively, like the whole character.
Well, no, I
mean,
feel like the writers. I feel like the premise of the game misses the point of God of War. If you want to tell me that
No, I don't
story,
think so.
create a new franchise. Don't just put Kratos. You might as well put Lara Croft in the boat with the kid. Like it's not a God of War game, really.
No, the thing is, it does play a lot like a God of War game. When I started playing it, I was a bit anxious that wasn't going to feel like a war, but it plays and it feels like a God of War game. It has a lot of the same elements, the clever world design, the combat. I mean, despite the change in angle, it's very God of War. I mean, I read the combat, actually, I enjoyed that a lot more than Horizon Zero Dawn when we were talking about it. I enjoyed the combat more. It's a fantastic looking game. I really like the story, and I take your points about, like, you know, him being a god and stuff, but that is God of War, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like you say, maybe they could have done it with a different character, but if it's a God of War game, I really like what they did, and it feels like a reimagined God of War game, not just another game with Kratos super glued into it for no reason, because that didn't feel like that to me at all. It feels like a game designed by people that know the series and really love the series and wanted to do something a bit different with it, and I think it works really well. It's got all the elements of God of War I loved with a slightly more human edge, and yeah, it's not as brilliant a story as The Last of Us or something like that, but it's a big step in the right direction. And I personally think it's fantastic. If you just like God of War, you can just play it and enjoy the battles and pretty much ignore the rest of it. If you're interested more in the story side of it, you've got that element now. I just really, really enjoyed it.
Like, it was the first God of War game that I've ever played, so I had no references to how the other games played out. And I thought it was great. Like, I mean, you've got, obviously I knew Kratos was a god, and obviously he's going to be strong, he's going to be fighting, he's going to be taking on all sorts. And then you've got this annoying kid that's going to be one long escort mission. But I actually found the kid very useful. Like, I mean, obviously he helps out in fights, and that's good. And you take it that Kratos hasn't really been around the kid. He probably left that all to the mother to do.
Yeah,
so now that she's out of the equation, he's now got to take care of this kid, and he doesn't know how to really do it. And that's why he's not really talking to the kid as much, other than calling him boy and come boy, which is. But he's then taken over this responsibility. So yes, he's going out. He's got this task to do. And he doesn't really know how to connect with the kid, and he's obviously learning. But it's good that then you had those moments where, how can you have a 30-hour journey and two people not really want to talk to each other? Oh, well, let's put in another character. So you've got Mimir, as you said, the head, and he starts up the dialogue and he tells you stories as you're going through the world and you're going around the lake and stuff. And Mimir and Atreus are talking, so there's dialogue as you're playing along. Kratos will chip in every now and again with his point of view, but as he's going, he maybe speaks a bit more and gives more background to the kid. So he develops a relationship throughout the game. He doesn't have it at the start. He starts to care. He obviously has to let the kid know eventually what the story with him is. I thought it was an excellent game. I really, really got into it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. For all the games I've played this year, currently, I would say that's my game of the year for this year so far.
Yeah, I think me too at the moment. One thing I was going to say, John, is you talk about human moments. Funnily enough, a lot of the most human moments in it of Kratos are after the credit roll, the sort of semi-fake out credit roll before the proper credits. So when you return back home, there's some more moments there which are, you know, possibly some of the highlights of that interaction.
And maybe it's because I didn't.
But it's not a massive. You're not missing hours and hours and hours of stuff. You're just missing a little bit, but it does definitely sort of put a bit of a lid on it. But no, I mean, I'm with Mark. I've just really enjoyed it, and as somebody who's played, I think I've played just about all the God of War games, including the ones that people thought were shit, like the one on the PSP and the last one on PS3 that I think Ascension or something that people said was a bit rubbish. And I enjoyed all of them, but they were much more basic than this one. The combat was great fun, and you know they had platforming stuff, but the story was, you know, pretty thin. There was some pretty interesting story, but it was never. I never cared that much. This is the first one I really sort of cared about what actually happened. I
mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not peeing all over it. I mean, I think it was I don't invest that much time into something if I'm not enjoying it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. You know, it's as a game goes. I mean, I haven't played any of the previous ones. It was good to understand and start to get to know where he came from. The ladders and levels bit were great. The puzzle solving was great. I love that. I mean, that's why I'm a Tomb Raider, and I like the Uncharted stuff. I like that kind of thing where you've got to work stuff out. That appeals to me. I like the world design, and it was really well put together. I think that the thing that was lacking for me was some of the nuance, which is probably, and I've only seen bits of The Last of Us, so I don't really know, but it seems that those characters and that relationship was far more nuanced than this monolith trying to connect with this child who, frankly, a lot of the time you just want to smack her in the back of the head and tell her just to shut the fuck up because he's annoying. There seemed to be less depth in there than actually some of the solo characters that I've played, like Aloy. There seemed to be more depth to the relationships that she has in the world than there was in the development of the relationship between Kratos and Atreus.
Yeah.
And as in, don't be wrong, I'm not pissing all over it. I think it's a great game. I wouldn't have played as much for as long, and then I basically rinsed it. The only bits I haven't done are the Valkyries because, frankly, they're just too hard.
Oh, they do take the piss, actually. Yeah, these.
I've taken a
Valkyrie
couple of them
bosses,
down.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing I've enjoyed most, actually.
I tell you, if you like a
Probably
challenge, I reckon you'll enjoy this. The thing with the Valkyries I find
Yeah.
frustrating is every enemy in the game, you can usually block or dodge most of their attacks.
Yeah.
It might take you ages to get any hits in, but you can usually kind of keep moving, keep alive, sneak in the odd hit, and try to whittle them down. But the fucking Valkyries, they just seem to be, like, they're everywhere. They're so fast moving, you can't block most of their attacks. Some of them you can't dodge. I just constantly find myself being hit and being hit and being hit. And I find them really frustrating. It feels like cheap, not just difficult. I don't feel like most of the game is quite, points gets quite tough. And I challenged it over and over again, and I tried some of the realm tears are like quite hard. I mean, if you level up high enough and go back, they're really easy. But some of it, I spent like 40 minutes on one fight, and when I fucked up, I felt like I'd fucked up. But with the Valkyries, I just feel like everything I do makes it. They're too hard, they're too fast, they're too hard to dodge, and that's the one bit of the game I'm not enjoying because they're so hard and they feel cheap. That's my problem with it.
So interestingly, they're the most dark. People talk about, is it the viewpoint's more like Dark Souls? I think I mentioned this last time, and it's not really like Dark Souls. The game isn't really.
No. It's like God of War.
Those Valkyrie battles. Yeah. Because I think, briefly, I think I mentioned this before, but like a key frustration for me about the combat is that the enemies all look the fucking same. A lot of them do. Like, it's just humanoids, and it's like, well, which humanoid is that? And is that the one that throws stuff at me, or is that the one that charges at me? And of those different varieties of humanoid, there are then like 4 different elemental ones, and it's a bit like, well, I can't, at this point it's like 20 or 30 different enemies. Yeah. Which at that point they might as well be the same one because I'm not going to be able to identify them.
I don't know because they're all fairly clear. Like the red ones are the fire ones and the blue ones are the ice ones.
No, but it's not. But it varies based on which area you're in, and then it's like even if they are red or blue, is it like are they the red or blue ranged one or whatever? Like it's difficult for me to pick out which one's which. Like the dogs are different to the humanoids, I get that, but there are too many humanoid ones and too many variations on them. For my money, whereas Dark Souls, Bloodborne, or whatever, one of the things they do is the enemies all look really different, so you kind of know what you're getting into, and that's where the challenge comes from. So when you come to the Valkyrie battles, the way you beat the Valkyrie battles is you memorize the pattern, and it's quite a frustrating experience, I suppose, and you have to kind of play it and fail it 6 or 7 times, and you have to figure out which runes and powers to take in to beat that particular Valkyrie and then learn their pattern and beat them. And that's just like Dark Souls. That's just like Dark Souls. But your respawn point is just outside the door. Whereas in Dark Souls, it's fucking never just outside the door. So I really enjoyed the Valkyrie battles because I love that style of game.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Maybe you're right. Maybe because I've just been trying to do a one-size-fits-all approach to them and get my ass kicked. And you're saying there you tune your armor and your runes and all that stuff to focus yourself.
It's a fundamentally frustrating experience. Like it's absolutely you should get frustrated by it if you're a sensible.
It just sounds like a job.
Yeah, I
don't play.
I'd really like to finish them off, but I don't have that much time to play now with the baby, and I just can't see myself going back, which is a shame because I love the game. And those are the one thing that I just feel like the rest of it. Like the things I've missed, I think I could go around and solve the remaining puzzles, find the missing chests, do the remaining side quests, even the collection stuff. I can't see myself ever finishing the Valkyries, which immediately, when there's a game, there's one thing you're never going to do, that immediately kind of puts you off doing any of the rest of it to a point.
Absolutely.
I can't see myself ever spending enough time to crack the Valkyries. And it's great that there is a hard challenge in there like that, but I might just have to put it down to like pussy mode and do it on yes, I'm a little girl mode or something. And see
That's how I'm
through
playing it. That's how I'm playing it, and it's still, I just found it impossible.
Yeah, there's
even on the easiest mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, there's a comment you said to me on a message earlier today that you're going back to do the realm tears and you find them now quite satisfying now that you're leveled up. Ones that were tough before, rinsing through them. It's the exact same with the Valkyries. So there's some of them that you when you first find them, they will absolutely tear you to shreds. And then you go back after you've leveled up. And I mean, I was like you, I wasn't really learning the attacks. I was just hammering in, getting in, doing all the attacks, doing all the special moves. Once you level up, you can take them down fairly quickly. You can survive obviously longer and have the kid do his special moves as well. But as I said to you, there was one at the end of the Valkyries that I just couldn't do it. It was just too hard. I tried it so many times, and in the end, I had to lower the difficulty just to get that one beat. And even when I lowered it, the first time I fought that Valkyrie, I still got killed. The last one was just so tough.
I suppose it's okay. I mean, I don't mind a challenge being hard if it's like an optional challenge, I suppose. But it's a little frustrating, like I said, when you look at the game and think, well, I could finish everything in this game, but I'm never going to beat those Valkyries that are, a lot. But I suppose, as you say, though, if I was to do everything else in the game, I'd have the maximum health, I'd have the best armor set available, and then maybe they'd be much more manageable. So, but I just don't see myself having the time to go around and just keep playing the game, just rinsing every drop out of it. I'll probably go on to something else, but...
I want to say something positive about God of War, because it will obviously sound like I don't like the game, and I really like it. I think it is the best game I've played this year. I haven't played that many of the new games that have come out this year, but it's a really good game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is just like held up as the best game of the year legitimately. I'm basically being a dick in the same way I was with Mario Odyssey, which is basically, but I think it's an interesting discussion to have when critically everything, people say, oh, it's perfect, it's a masterpiece, it's 10 out of 10, it's great. I think it's an interesting discussion to say, well, actually, fucking, no, compare it to some of the stuff that actually fucking is 10 out of 10. Yeah. I think that's an interesting discussion, but I've had that discussion. But ultimately, it boils down to me being a bit of a dick. But what I will say is there have been plenty of moments in God of War that I've really enjoyed. For example, when you go up to the top of a mountain, spoilers, it's not the mountain, I haven't got that far in the game, but you go up the top of a mountain or whatever. That's spoilerish in itself, but it doesn't really matter. You're on a mountain, and this is a highly polished, well-produced game, and you're walking through snow, and it's a few inches deep, and it fucking renders exactly where you and the boy's footprints go. Yeah. And the snow gets churned up, and all the enemies churn it up. And I was staggered by that. The details, incredible. And that's also the same place where you see a huge view of the whole area, which I think we mentioned last time. You can see where you've been before, and I love that. And you can see the world serpent, and then you have a scene at the top of that with the tree thing, and that was a really, really great 15 odd minutes of the game where I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I don't know where this is going. I've not seen stuff like this before. This is a genuinely new feeling setting, certainly. So and that's just one example of, and some of the puzzles and the good
the
stuff,
elemental stuff. Yeah, absolutely. The elemental stuff as well. The water, especially water, is the reproduction of water has come on an awful lot, and in recent years in games, this is probably one of the best that I've seen. There's a couple of areas I think, but there's one in particular where Kratos has to jump through some falling water. And it works, it's a sheet of water, and it's not just a fixed distortion. It's moving as the water's moving. It splashes when he jumps through it. There's the wherever you go and whatever you do, the things around you react in the correct way. So if you splash the water splashes. If you shoot a bird, the reflection of the bird in the water is the reflection of the bird in the water. It's not just the static render of what they know is there. It's that has been done extraordinarily well. The snow is always difficult. I mean, I love the way that they did snow in Horizon Zero Dawn, and the snow effect in God of War was just as good. It all just worked. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. As a world, I think it's been beautifully put together. I mean, just beautifully put together.
Do you have a PS4 Pro, John, or just PS4?
I do, yes.
Yeah, because I haven't played on obviously the normal PS4. My experience is all from the Pro, but it looks fantastic, and I mean I love it, and I think I like the story better than Simon. But we all basically agree that it's at least an 8.
Okay. Oh God, it's a great game.
Yeah, and I'm reviewing that. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10 from what I've seen. Like, it's a really fucking good game. Like, I'm not like. I'm questioning why I read reviews and they say it's a masterpiece and the story's amazing and everything. I'm like, I'm not sure about that. That's all. I'm basically just being a dick, as I say.
All right. Well, okay. So let's all settle on an average of 9, and and move swiftly on, because I think it must be time for Simon's game.
So, talking of me being a dick, it's Simon's game, and the scores currently are 8 to Tony, 4 to the guests, and 6 to John. I feel like Tony hasn't won for ages, but he's still out in front. He's a bit like Manchester City. He often blue moons. So horse has gone lame, but is being dragged around.
But I'm still that far ahead that I'm being caught up.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, absolutely. As the ants carry you to their nest. Or something. All right, so this time out, I am a video game, and our 3 competitors must be first to guess my identity. They get 1 guess per clue to guess. They blurt out their answer. Wait, what do they say? They say stop, and then blurt out their answer. Yeah, I have played this. I haven't played this game before, but I have made it several times. It must be... I must have done this 50 or 60 times. It must be more than that, I'd have thought. No,
how many episodes have we done?
It's getting on for 100, mustn't it? Surely.
It's just over. You've done this just over 60 times on this particular.
But we did it before, didn't we? And we must have done it at least 20 times before.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. All right. Well, without further ado,
each one more painful than the last.
Sudoku, Sudoku. Right then, clue number 1. Remember, I'm a video game. Clue number 1. I feature the Predator. Clue number 1. I feature the Predator.
Stop. Predator.
Alien versus Predator.
Both wrong. Clue 2. I was released in autumn. Clue 2. I was released in autumn. Clue 3. I feature animals and flowers. Clue 3. I feature animals and flowers. Clue 4. I have dimples. Clue 4. I have dimples. Clue 5.
Hang on, is this a game?
Yeah.
A game that has dimples?
Yeah.
The fuck?
These clues are so fucking good, you're going to shit yourself in about 4 minutes time. Clue 5.
There's a danger of that, actually. I should have gone before we started.
Mainly because the game's going to go on for so long. Clue 5. I was released for GameCube, PS2, and N-Gage, amongst other platforms. Clue 5.
Stop. Crazy Golf.
Crazy Golf is incorrect. So clue 5. I was released for...
Everybody's Golf?
Everybody's Golf is incorrect. So clue 5. I was released for GameCube, PS2, and N-Gage, amongst other platforms. Clue 6. I feature many clubs. Clue 6. I feature many clubs. Clue 7. My gaming series has been in the industry for a fair way. Clue 7. My gaming series has been in the industry for a fair way.
Stop. Is it Jim Covello's putting challenge?
It's Lee Covelli, but no, it's
Oh,
not.
Lee Covello. Yeah.
Clue 8. There's a striped cat in my title. Clue 8. There's a striped cat
Stop.
in my
Tiger Woods
title.
Pro Golf.
No, that's incorrect.
How many
Clue 9.
fucking striped cats are in golf?
Clue 9. I'm a golf game.
Stop. Tiger Woods Golf.
Incorrect. Clue 10. I was released in 2003.
Stop. Tiger Woods Golf 2003.
That's incorrect.
Stop stripy cat golf.
Should be a tap in from here.
Tiger Woods Golf 2004.
Correct. Well done, producer John.
Fucking cunt. When I answered that, I was thinking, would it be 2003 or would it be 2004? And I thought, no, 2003.
Oh wow! Look
Stolen.
at this. So we go to 8 for Tony, 4 for the
Stolen.
guests, and 7 to producer John. I've never.
Oh,
Producer John's really doing well this season, isn't he? He's
Well,
coming.
he did
I
get
feel
an
like- I
11.
feel like-
He got an 11th clue there. That was unfair.
I feel like producer John did so much of the work there that he deserves it, to be honest.
So the full game title is Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2004. Awesome.
Well, he didn't even get it fucking right then, did he?
Quite close enough. It's the spirit of the game. All right, so clue number 1 was I feature the Predator, which apparently was a secret unlockable fantasy course.
Or not Tiger
She
Woods as
should
a
have
predator.
known.
Right, sorry.
Well, yeah, there's that angle as well. Clue 2, I was released in autumn. It was released in September of 2003. Clue 3, I feature animals and flowers. So tiger is an animal, and Justin Rose is a flower. Clue 4, I have dimples. Golf balls have
That's golf
dimples.
balls.
Producer
Yeah,
John was
that's
onto
what
that. He's onto
I was
that.
onto that as well.
Everyone was onto that, apart from Tony, apparently.
I had no fucking idea. My balls haven't got dimples.
Something wrong with you, mate.
I was trying to think of the recent golf game that came out that's like all explosions and stuff, Dangerous Golf or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's the one I was trying to think of.
No, we're going back a bit further. So, Clue 5 was released for GameCube, PS2, and N-Gage, amongst other platforms. Clue 6 featured many clubs. Clue 7, my gaming series has been in the industry for a fair way, which doesn't make sense if you actually think about the sentence.
No.
Clue
No.
8, there's a striped cat in my title. Tiger. Clue 9, I'm a golf game. And Clue 10, I was released in 2003. And as we all now know, the sports titles every year come out with the year next year, which is definitely explained by me. So there we go. So we're 8, 4, 7 to Tony. So it's all to play for. And that's the end of Simon's game.
Thank you, Simon, for another farcical Simon's game. But it's good news. But it is good. But it is good news, though. It's good news because I'm pleased to announce the end of the series. Thanks for listening, everybody. It's been a good series, and I've won Simon's game, 8 points to 7 against 4 for the guest. So thanks for listening. It's a very short season break because we're going to come back in 2 weeks' time with a new season. So yeah, it's almost like we're not having a season break, but it is definitely going to be a season break because I'm going to announce the next one as the start of season 4. So, winner!
Looks like we're going to have to invoke an oft forgotten rule to do with when the actual end of the season falls. And if it falls in June, I'm afraid it's quite a bad
carries
news
on.
for you, Tony, actually, it says here. So,
Forfeit, isn't it?
The board being in
forfeit.
touch.
the board has just sent me a pigeon.
Well, we shall see. We shall see which series I think this is next time. But yeah, okay. Thanks everybody for listening. It's been good fun. Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Thanks
You're our
for
third
sticking the
choice.
bat on the barrel for me. Thank you.
I was going to get you on, but it wasn't going to be this week because last time I asked Sean and Chris and they couldn't do it then. So I thought I'd better ask them this time, and then they couldn't do it again because they're gallivanting around the world looking at vaginas and bottles of Tennessee whiskey. So not sure which one I'd rather see, to be honest. Okay, so well, thanks for producing, John.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for co-hosting, Simon.
That's all right. Thanks, Tony.
That was just like the most half-assed thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, fine, whatever.
And thanks very much, listeners, for listening. Remember, we're on Twitter at Balls on a Tray, and we're on Facebook at facebook.com/Balls on a Tray. You can get us through iTunes. Johnny, you're putting a podcast on YouTube, aren't you, as well as the sticky bit in the middle?
Yeah. When I remember, I do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you may be able to find us on YouTube, but then if you found this bit, you're probably all right.
It's on YouTube, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, and we'll see you all next time. Our little outro music sounded like we had kind of like a sort of dance remix of it, because when Mark was nodding his head up and down, his microphone was kind of scratching, and it sounded like somebody scratching the record.
Wiki, wiki, wah, wah.
God, you're like a white Will Smith, aren't you?